interested.
Well, I know one question I don't want to forget that our viewers, I'm sure, would like to hear is like what you eat.
I eat exactly what my body wants from a day-to-day basis, and I do exactly what I taught you, but I rotate foods on a 4-day cycle, which I teach all this in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, which I have a few copies. I'll give you each a copy. Yeah. I eat a wide variety of food, but I eat organic, certified organic as often as possible, and free-range and wild-caught fish. So what I eat changes from day to day and from season to season. I try to follow the seasons so that the variety in my diet changes, but I always eat high-quality food. Some days I eat as a vegetarian, some days I eat as a vegan, some days I eat as a carnivore. You know, if I lift heavy weights in the gym, like I do a bunch of deadlifts or, you know, real hardcore weightlifting, then I need a lot more meat. But on days that I'm traveling or taking days off, I often go vegetarian because my body doesn't need the meat. And if I eat it, it just clogs me up and shuts my spiritual vision down. It clouds my mind up. It's too much for the body. The body can't process it. So I literally, honestly eat what my body needs on a day-to-day basis with no dogma attached. The only criteria is that it's high-quality food worth putting in my body.
And for you, that means like the more exercise you do, the more carnivorous you are.
Yeah, that's my body's need. Yeah, the more flesh I break down, the more flesh I need to replace it.
That's an interesting answer. That's a cool answer. Is dairy acceptable for you?
I am allergic to dairy, but as a therapist and as a coach, dairy is acceptable for anybody that can effectively digest, metabolize, assimilate, and eliminate it. My concern is pasteurized dairy and commercially farmed dairy is poison. Yeah. I would not put any pasteurized dairy in my body whatsoever. By definition, pasteurization means all enzyme activity has ceased, which means it's dead. Yeah. Remember, if you eat a food that's more dead than you, it takes your life force to turn that food back on and turn it into human flesh, which is why so many people have to drink coffee and tea after they eat. Because the food's so dead, it sucks the energy right out of them. So they got to bring their energy reserves back up by using sugar, coffee, and stimulants, which makes them sick in the long run. So one of the reasons people feel so good on raw food diets is because it's the first time in their life they've ever eaten food that's alive. So, just remember the rule. If it's more dead than you, it's going to cost you energy.
And you're saying like pasteurized dairy is like more dead than like cooked meat?
Pasteurized dairy is enzymatically dead. Now, how you cook meat determines what you do to it. And remember, the process of cooking is not always bad because it does release a lot of nutrients that are otherwise locked up in the food, such as fibrous plant foods. Yeah. So, when I eat meat, I only sear it to kill the bacteria and to minimize parasites surviving. But I like meat as rare as I can get it, but I only eat meat from good sources where the animals are raised in a healthy environment. Otherwise, you're just eating poisonous meat.
Okay. Cool. And then I know a lot of people are going to, in my mind a little bit even, so how the flesh of an animal is not dead?
No. As long as everything begins to die as soon as its heart stops. Okay? But there is spiritual force in that animal, and as the animal rots, then the life force of the animal also dissipates. Okay. Right? So if you eat fresh caught fish, you're eating something that's still very, very alive. But if you come back 2 weeks later into the sushi shop and that's the same old fish sitting there, it dies more and more by the day. So as the cellular activity of the animal diminishes, so does the life force in it. Okay. So the longer it lasts on the shelf, the worse it is for you, as I often say.
And then for the acceptable dairy, do you have a dairy, like, would you say raw goat's milk is the best? Or would you,
or cheese, I wouldn't. Raw cheese? Again, there's no such thing as the best. What works for you? What does your body need? Have a relationship with it. But when it comes to raw goat's milk, research shows, and Victor Racine, and you can see those 2 books on the top shelf on the left there, the old ones. Those are Racine's book. He was Dr. Bernard Jensen's, one of his teachers. Racine's research showed that raw goat's milk was the closest to human mother's milk. And it has a bacterial profile that's very favorable for the human colon. So if someone can get raw goat's milk, especially if they need probiotics or they're having digestive troubles, that's an excellent food source. But again, it has to be from healthy goats.
Okay. And then what about grains? Same questions for grains and caffeine. Okay. Is it acceptable and what sources?
Most people don't have the digestive power to break grains down effectively. So again, there's no such thing as good or bad to me. Is your body capable of using that as a nutrition and a food source in a positive way, or is it actually creating problems like inflammation in the gut? 50 to 60% of the world population has been shown by research to be gluten intolerant. So if you're eating grains you can't digest, it's inflaming your intestinal tract, and the instant you inflame any organ, you also cause a reflex inhibition of the muscles that are on the same neurological channels. So anybody eating grains that's gluten intolerant, for example, is going to shut their abdominal wall off and leave themselves wide open to musculoskeletal problems that won't go away. So again, is the grain a high quality grain? Is it organic? Is it properly farmed? Is it sprayed with a bunch of chemicals? Can you digest it? Does it work for you? Does it cause skin problems? Does it cause constipation? Again, is the food quality good, and is it symbiotic with your body, and is it what you need? Those are the only questions that need to be asked.
Okay. And for caffeine?
Caffeine is highly addictive. It's very yang. It's not the caffeine itself, but it's what it comes in. For example, caffeine in coffee or caffeine in tea. Caffeine as a chemical is yang, so it has a very drying effect on the body, and it speeds the body up, and it stimulates the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands have a physiological relationship with the hypothalamus, which is the timekeeper of the brain, the pituitary, which is the master hormonal gland. So you have what's called the HPA axis: hypothalamus, timekeeper, pituitary, master regulator of the hormones, adrenals, the regulator of the stress hormones and your androgens, and your mineralocorticoids, which control fluid balance in your body. So caffeine actually speeds up the energy travel through that loop, and it stimulates the hypothalamus. So the more caffeine you have, the faster your cells run, so you can actually live more minutes per minute on caffeine than you can, which is why athletes like it, because it jacks them up, right? But the reality of it is if you speed the cell up, you also speed the rate of metabolic waste production, and if your liver and your detox systems cannot handle that rate of output, then the caffeine works to stimulate you for a while, but it also can produce toxicity and disease in your body, because the body then eventually has to shut the thyroid gland down to slow the metabolism down so it can clean itself up or it'll die. So caffeine's extremely bad for women because their hormonal systems are very sensitive and it dries them out. It's dangerous for men and women because it accelerates the rate of biological time. And if your biological time clock is outrunning chronology, which means there's 24 hours in a day, but if through caffeine you're living more than 24 hours a day, you're actually going to age very rapidly. So caffeine, for anyone that does not want an aging effect, is a very, very bad idea. So anyone that wants better skin or to look younger should get the hell away from caffeine.
Is there a side? Would you recommend green tea over coffee, or
green tea has more antioxidants and bioavailable nutrition in it based on research. If you're going to drink coffee, it needs to be freshly ground, and you should consume it within 10 minutes of the time that it's been produced, because it also oxidizes very quickly, and they did research on this in natural cancer treatment centers. So just the way you should not leave fresh squeezed juice sitting around for more than a minute. Linus Pauling, for example, showed within 1 minute, if I remember right from his research, within 1 minute of juicing an orange, 90% of the vitamin C will oxidize and be gone. So having orange juice sitting around on shelves for days and days is just a bunch of dead sugar water. So the research that I was exposed to through one of my mentors on coffee, he said, if you're going to use it, it's got to be fresh ground, and you got to get it into your body as fast as you can within 10 minutes, or it just becomes another poisonous liquid.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of nutrition in coffee itself, and much of the stimulation from coffee comes from the amino acids, which are also neurotransmitter stimulators. It's not just the caffeine. Same with tea.